I'm gonna analyze one of the greatest modern weightlifters of all time, Xiaojun, and we're gonna start right now. What's up, everybody? It's Dane Miller from GarageStrength.com, and if this is your first time to the channel and you're interested in learning more about Olympic weightlifting, you wanna have smoother technique like Lou, you wanna win those medals like Lou, make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you ring that notification bell so we can help you become a champion. So have you ever walked into somebody and they just feel like a complete brick house? They're just super, super strong and they can barely move. You bump their shoulder and they barely budge. If that's happened to you, that's exactly what Xiaojun is like. And I'm gonna share a little quick story, is that in 2019 in Pattaya, Thailand, I was standing at the front of the doors before the training hall opened up. And Piros Dimas was standing there and he's going, Dane, Dane, Dane. So he had sort of worked some magic. He had gone in and he knew where our platforms were going to be, and he wanted us to get in that. He wanted the Americans to get in there before anybody else. And so what ended up happening is that as Piros came back in, he grabs me because I was at the front of like where all the team was sort of being filtered in, and it's like a cattle chute. There's just people packed in, and everybody's sort of like running into to get to the platforms and start training. And the Chinese team was sort of like right to our right side. And what ends up happening is Piros starts to pull me, and as he's pulling me, he's sort of like nudging one of the other Chinese lifters away. And Xiaojun's standing next to me, and he just starts to lean into me. And I'm a pretty big person. You know, I weigh like 250 pounds, I'm 6'1", and I also wrestled. I'm also relatively strong. And I'm trying to like lean back into him, but he's so strong, he just pushes me out of the way. And I also didn't want to start a fight, so I sort of let him take over. That's sort of my excuse. And it was my first engagement with him, really, you know, directly right next to each other. And he is an absolute specimen of an individual. And so I've watched his lifting over the years, and I'm excited to go over this because he does a lot of stuff from a technical perspective that I think we can learn from. So let's dive right into this. Okay, so this is 2012. I believe they actually might have had an error here, the coaches. So this is 175. And I think something to really pay attention to with Xiaojun is the way he moves his feet. He doesn't jump all over the place. Yeah, so I believe there was a coaching error that sort of prevented him from taking that 177. I think that 175 was a world record. But pay attention to how well he moves his feet, how he moves his knees on the pole, and also just how developed he is from a physical perspective. He clearly does quite a bit of bodybuilding work. Loves this coach. You know, I think it was 2008 or 2000. Yeah, after the 2008 Olympics, he was thinking about quitting weightlifting, and he got coaxed back into training, and you know, goes on to win five world titles, 1 Olympic title so far. But again, right there, you can see, watch those feet very, very carefully. Pay attention to how he just slides his feet out ever so slightly. And the knees tend to clear back. You can see right here as the bar is just at his kneecap. His shins are pretty vertical, and then right here, now he comes through, his knees come forward, and his feet are still flat. His heels are still grounded, his chest stays over the bar, and that enables this to happen. This is a ridiculously, we always talk about how can we get that vertical finish, but no one ever says really what to do. And if you think about it, you got to clear those knees back right off the floor like Lou does. Then you can reciprocate those knees forward as long as you're keeping your heels grounded, as long as you're keeping your feet flat. That's going to help get more of knee flexion, and then the hips will start to extend, so the chest will come back slightly, and then the hips will extend, and then you finish with that knee extension. And that's exactly what we're looking at right here. I believe this might have also been a world record. You know, as a 77, he snatched 177. So he's just an absolute animal. Now pay attention here to his feet. It looks like they barely move at all. And I think that's, you know, in the US, we love to jump all over the place and slam our feet down so it sounds like we're moving fast, but it doesn't actually do anything effectively. There we go. You've got that, just a little bit of a soft lock out there with that shoulder, but especially for his age. That's where I feel so pathetic. He's the same age as me. He's like 4 months younger than me. So here we go, slow-mo. Great video from hook grip. Watch those knees come back. The knees basically get over top of those heels, right here, especially on that on the middle and all the way to the right. You can see those shins are pretty vertical. As that bar comes past, now pay attention to see how those knees just slide right underneath. And that's something that we don't teach at all. We teach it, but a lot of coaches in the US avoid this. They don't want to talk about reciprocating those knees forward. And I call this point right here, I call the reciprocation point. That's where, especially in this middle frame, you can see how his knees just slide under and that bar stays super, super tight. And if I like to think about below the knee and above the knee as that no man's land, that's where a lot of errors happen. But he keeps that so tight by having that knee flexion. And you can see now, this is where his squat comes into play. He's known for having this absurdly massive squat, even as he's aged. Now he's in this position. It's almost exactly at the top of a high bar back squat. That's the position that we're hitting right here, and that's what leads to that big finish. And if we watch his heels, even on the middle frame, his right heels, and his heels now on all these frames are just barely starting to get elevated to plantar flex. He gets some plantar flexion, and then as he gets to that catch position, his feet slide ever so slightly and they get grounded down, okay? They're not jumping all over the place. So he has a long pull and then a long period to absorb that weight. And that's one of the key aspects we've got to think about from biomechanics, from physics. If you can pull something longer and then you can get to that catch position sooner, now you're gonna be in a better position to pull it higher and to absorb that force earlier. And that's the big key that behind what Lou does, and almost all the Chinese lifters do, is how well they can keep that flat foot. Okay, so now we're in Rio, and this is where, if we can think about, with Lou in Rio, so he ends up tying the Kazakh, who was an Azerbaijani. Rahimov had been popped already, and I think that, I'm not gonna say that Lou's never took anabolics. It's especially with the Chinese history, they were punished in 2017. Probably likely he has been on them, but he ends up tying the Kazakh in 2016. He had a phenomenal snatch session, but then the Kazakh went up to 214 and just went off. But again, this 202 is just super smooth, real nice position. He didn't think he'd need 203 or 204. Probably could have done that. Thought he had everything lined up, and then here comes Rahimov with just an absolute absurd clean and jerk. And keep in mind, this is a guy that we featured on our top PEDs video for Olympic weightlifting. He's one of the guys that we highlighted because when he got popped, he didn't just get popped for one, he got popped for 2 different anabolics. You can go check that out if you want to see exactly what he got caught with. And he's not a better lifter. He jumps his feet all over the place. That's why his snatch is not anywhere close to as good as Lou, but he certainly gamed up. A lot of people also discuss that they think that he put that down a bit early, but I don't know. That's just a phenomenal lift for him too. No one saw that coming. No one saw him taking it out. And Muhammad Ehab's there. He had snatched, he's a tremendous snatcher himself, tremendous weightlifter himself. But here we go. One of the most unique things is seeing Lou in the back room is, one, their warm-ups. They do a lot of banded warm-ups, a lot of bodybuilding to warm up. And they will warm up for an extended period of time, 10, 15, 20 minutes. A lot of different crazy exercises, a lot of even massage, stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, it's boom, let's go. They'll start to lift immediately. And it's not these long, short jumps, lots of different reps. It's boom, 70, boom, 20, 120, then 170, and it's just boom, 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 right up the ranks. But every single movement that they're doing, they do some isometric stuff. They might pause in the hole. They feel those positions. They might pause on the pull, even when they're working with the bar, so that they feel good positions. They might pause in the catch to help them warm up, but then they really get after it. I think that too. I think when we're talking about the Chinese, that's partially why they're so mobile as well, as they do a lot of bodybuilding stuff. They hold a lot of different positions. And right here, he's got what, 255 on, you know, for an easy double, probably a couple days out from that world champs. I think this is in Turkmenistan. Then they hit some, you know, some glute ham stuff here, improvising quite well. You know, and his lower back, it's one of those backs that you can just see. It's like a road map, right? It's like a road map of muscle, and the lumbar spine is a massive, or the erectors are the massive interstates connecting all the rest of the map. He's just an absolute physical specimen. Great dorsiflexion in his ankles, and that's, you know, one of those keys to weightlifting is you've got to have mobile ankles. You've got to have super mobile lower back. But if you have the mobile ankles, theoretically, if your technique's consistent, you should have less issue. You should have less stress on your upper back. There's Nat in the background. Shout out Hook Grip. Gregor is a great filmer. Obviously, he's filming here for All Things Gym. If you can support All Things Gym or Hook Grip, by all means, we should be continuously supporting these guys, and Weightlifting House. They do a tremendous job covering the sport and just providing really, really good material. I mean, providing material for this video right here. So shout out to Gregor, Nat, Seb. You know, everybody does a really great job of covering the sport. And there he's got what, 60 on, 160 for easy pulls. And here's some of his unique pulls. You know, and again, this is just a couple days out from him competing. You know, an American would go, oh no, that's going to screw up his mechanics. That's going to screw up his technique. Chinese don't care. Great movement here. You can really see on that side angle what his knees are doing. Oh no, yeah, so this is 2015. This is in Houston. I never understood why they dropped the bar like that. It's sort of annoying. It's like, dude, come on. Do you have to be that annoying? It's just so loud and obnoxious. I guess too, I know I feel like an old guy saying that about dropping that empty bar, but it's like, if that was his own personal bar at his own gym, he wouldn't want people to do that. I guess that's how I see it. I know that's me being old school. So look at this, deficit, touch and go, almost like a semi-stiff-legged deadlift. I love that they do stuff like this, because this, again, is just stuff that American coaches might sit there and be like, oh, this is going to screw up his pulling mechanics. No, I don't think it does. The classic Lou raises, rear delt, traps, some bar leans for those obliques. I think some of the key, look at his back, man. I think some of the other key factors is because he does squat jerk. Okay, so now we're in Ashgabat. Because he squat jerks, I actually believe that can lengthen someone's career because it's less unilateral work. It's like it's almost like an injury prevention thing, because then they stop favoring one side over the other. They're still going to favor it a little bit, but not as much as somebody who's a split jerker. But I still coach the split jerk predominantly because I think it's better. All right, so here we got Lou, 70 kilos, doing some bodybuilding work. Let's go 1. Look at those triceps. 2, 3, 5, 7 at 70, so 155 pounds. That's pretty good for a light guy. Very good, and that's partially probably why his lockout tends to be so good. So this was shortly after he bullied me in the gates getting into the training hall. But again, this is he's what, 35, 36 years old. This is where he games up. It's at 71. And when he won this, he has a huge clean and jerk, and it's just that's him as a competitor. And we're gonna see later on. You know, he talks about himself and why he loves to compete, and it's the technique over and over and over again, and it's the Chinese method. It's the Chinese method to everything, to learning different skills. Is that they, and this is huge. This is 207, right? So this is a monster. He holds that, unbelievable to win it. Senior world record with 35 years old. Yeah, he's an animal. I think some of the best technique that you can see, but again, we've got to realize that the Chinese instill technique in every skilled movement. Actually, let's go back. I'm gonna stop talking slightly, and I'm gonna go back a little bit here. So let's watch right there. Look at his knees already. They're clearing back. Okay, so that's something we've got to pay attention to. What's he do? Shins completely vertical. This is a position you need to be in. If you want to be a world-class lifter that's consistent, you have to achieve this position. And then again, knees come forward. Right here, starts to make contact, chest is over the bar. Now, heels are still flat, chest is slightly over the bar. Then he's already starting to hip extend. He's already bringing his hips underneath. Then he's going to finish with that knee extension for that monster clean. And it's the same, you know, big drive, long. How long he drives on that jerk, right? And his feet just slide. They're not jumping all over the place. His feet just slide. But getting back to these guys train their skills repetitively over and over and over again. That's how they work through. If they're musicians, if they're mathematicians, if they're doing anything, you can even see it when they're warming up with the bar. They're just hammering their technique repetitively, over and over and over and over and over again. And that's the one thing that we forget about in the US is they have technical models that they instill and ingrain in their lifters. And we struggle to even identify a technical model. And I think that just using someone like Lou, especially with his pull, his snatch and his clean, we can utilize that as a technical model and then continue to, you know, refine our lifters long term. But we've got to pay attention to what are his ankles doing, what are his feet doing, what are his knees doing, what are his hips doing, what's his chest doing. And so here he is with Weightlifting House. Shout out to them, they're great, you know. And here he is talking about why is he still training? Why is he still doing this?
I would say strength was a priority when I was younger, but as I got older, especially once I hit 30, I started focusing more on the...
Okay, so basically, I think that's pretty interesting. He's talking about how strength was a pretty big priority with him early on from a younger age. And I think it's important, this is me personally as a coach now chiming in here, is that at an early age, establish very, very, very technically refined movement. Okay, so if you get somebody who starts 12, 13, 14, 15, really hone in on that technique, then it becomes a lot easier to add that strength. You can start adding strength through their squats and their pulls, and then all of a sudden, because they have that really good technique, now that strength comes in and it's directly applied to their technical movement. And then later on, you know, he starts discussing about when he is 30 years old. Wow, I go back and I start to really find that sensation of the technique and how those lifts should feel. And that's, you know, that's why weightlifting is so cool. It's so fun. It's so enjoyable because of that.
Weightlifting is pretty important as well.
And that's what's neat. Even seeing this is his enthusiasm for the sport, how he's self-motivated. And I think that that's one of the biggest things is that a lot of weightlifters, a lot of newbies tend to, they want to be Lou, but they don't think about the bigger picture is that you've got to be self-motivated. You can't want to be somebody else. You've got to be the best version of yourself. And the grind behind weightlifting is as important, and embracing that grind is as important as, you know, wanting to be on top of that podium. You've got to be into the grind that goes into the actual sport.
My age doesn't bother me because to me it's not even a thing. It's just not in my way. It's not an obstacle. I enjoy weightlifting so much that it has become a huge part of my life.
I think that's the thing, you know, he enjoys weightlifting. He enjoys the movements, the training, again, the grind, how difficult it actually is. And that if you want to be good, it takes years and years and years and years and years of technical refinement and pain and discomfort and loneliness and suffering. But when you do cool stuff, it can be really, really, really rewarding. And I think that that's one of those things that what Xiaojun just said. Take that lesson, embrace the sport, and enjoy the actual sport for what it is, and that's what's gonna help you become a better weightlifter. So if you want more information about weightlifting technique, and periodization, head over to garagestrength.com. You can click on the link down in the description, and you can pick up a copy of Parabolic Periodization, the book, and the course. And if you want more videos reacting to elite weightlifters, you can click on this card right here. Until next time, guys, peace.